What's going on, guys? Tower number 9 here, and I am bringing you some more commentated gameplay footage from day 2 of GenCon. Big shout out to Dameron for allowing me to use his footage and for taking this great footage at the event. There is a link to Dameron's channel in the video description below, so feel free to give him a follow. And this original footage was taken by him, but only has player audio for the games themselves, though he does have some commentary in between rounds. He allowed me to use this footage to add some commentary, as if it were doing kind of the play-by-play commentary for a produced stream. So yeah, I am happy to be doing that. Once again, big shout out to Dameron for the footage, and you can see his channel in the link below. This is going to be a match between Alex Hancox on the left. He is fielding a Boba Green deck, though he is interestingly using a 30 HP base rather than the more common Energy Conversion Lab. On the right, we have Ophir, aka wooooo. Big shout out to wooooo. I'll have a link to wooooo's channel in the video description below as well. He's been playing this game for quite some time. Very strong player, and he is playing an exciting new deck from Shadows of the Galaxy, Qi'ra Green. So in the past, we've seen decks like Krennic Green being used as kind of a soft control option to counter Boba and have a pretty reasonable game into Sabine as well. Qi'ra Green, I think, is maybe the latest evolution of this concept, and he is fielding a Energy Conversion Lab, the Qi'ra leader, and I think he will be probably the favorite in this matchup, both because he's a very experienced player and also because I think these sort of blue-green villainy soft control decks are quite advantaged into Boba in general. Boba's more mid-range and is vulnerable to that sort of soft control type thing, in my opinion. Let's see whether or not wooooo can make my confidence justified with a win here against Alex. So the players are just resourcing here as we get started. And I think it's going to be exciting. So these matches are always streamed from the top tables here. So both these players are 1-0 in day 2 here. So both players starting out in space. Alex leads off with the Cartel Spacer, the when played ability doing nothing because there's not another cunning unit nor anything to exhaust. And wooooo brings out, I believe, Inferno 4, looking at his top 2 cards. Nice thing there. Okay, so then looks like a hotshot deal 44 blaster going into the resource zone there for Alex. That could be a big benefit to him in the future because that card can be smuggled out for 3, buff a unit by 2, and let you attack immediately. I think one of the cooler cards from Shadows of the Galaxy, personal favorite. Yeah, let's see what happens here. So the Cartel Spacer swings into base, inflicting 2 damage. Both players using notepads here to keep track of base HP. wooooo decides to send Inferno 4 to hit the Cartel Spacer for 2, which I think is a pretty reasonable decision here. And let's see how this goes. Boba Fett Disintegrator on the field now, strong 3-cost unit. But he is going to take some damage here from a Death Trooper. So the Death Trooper, when played, deals 2 damage to a friendly and enemy ground unit. So the Death Trooper does 2 damage to itself, now a 3-1, but the 2 damage to Boba Disintegrator means Boba is now a 3-3. So both of these units are set up for trades right now. The Death Trooper can attack into Boba Disintegrator and trade, and Inferno 4 can attack into the Cartel Spacer and trade. And with the overall situation, wooooo is probably looking to make those trades and try and keep the board small and go towards his presumably stronger late game, whereas Alex is probably trying to push damage on base and close things out before wooooo can get to the end game. Now, I don't know for sure. It's possible Alex has some powerful endgame cards. In some ways, using a 30 HP base instead of ECL might be consistent with that, but we'll have to see how it goes. All right. Alex with the initiative here. Looks like he has a resupply in hand, so he could get Boba out early. If he has a way to exhaust that Death Trooper, nope, it's going to be resupply. So resupply gets added as an exhausted resource. Death Trooper trades Boba's ability used to ready a resource. And I think there's a good chance we're going to see a Boba deployment here. It looks like he has Boba Fett's armor in hand. Now, normally that would be really strong, but I actually think it would be weak in this situation because he is potentially opening himself up to power of the dark side to clear Boba. He doesn't really have a way to get another unit in play, and the card Inferno 4 can just trade with the Cartel Spacer. So if Wu has a power of the dark side, Alex is playing right into it. Inferno 4 indeed takes that trade. Wu gets to look at the top 2 cards when defeated. He sees a resupply, and I think it was that weak Guardian unit, the 2/3, and he sends them both to the bottom. Boba swings in, readying two resources. Okay, maybe he'll use that to play a unit. Power of the dark side. There we go. Brutal. Alex can't be happy with that outcome. On the plus side, at least swinging rather than equipping Boba's armor was a good choice because it allowed him to ready 2 resources and thus play this defender. If he had played Boba's armor and then got blown out by that power of the dark side, that would have been catastrophic. And unfortunately, he draws another Boba's armor, not the card that he wants to see in this situation. But Wu, in my opinion, is favored at this point, having been able to clear the Boba deployment very easily. He leads off with a pass. Interesting. Wu passes. The defender hits for 3. Another defender hits the field. Now Wu is going to deploy Qi'ra, and so when she deploys, she heals all units to full, and then does half their HP in damage to them. So I guess by passing and delaying his Qi'ra deployment, Wu manages to knock the shields off both defenders. Then he fires an overwhelming barrage for 6, clearing both defenders, and then swings in for 6 damage to Alex's base. So Wu, I think, has turned the corner here, and now he's absolutely the player with the advantage on the board. He did sustain some damage, but he still has his ECL, and Alex is in big trouble now. Salacious Crumb hits the field. That does heal Alex's base for 1, but it's not the play he most wants, I think. Qi'ra defeats Salacious Crumb. Because she has grit, that does mean that she's now going to be doing 5 damage instead of just 4 on future attacks. I believe, I can't quite see what card that is, but I think it might be a copy of Lom Pike, a unit that can, on attack, give a shield to both sides. You give a shield to a friendly unit and an enemy unit of your choice, I believe. And that was played normally rather than smuggled, I believe. 4 Lom ambushes and trades with Qi'ra. Lom Pike could attack here and get a free shield because there's no enemy unit to give a shield to, I believe. Maybe it doesn't work that way. It either doesn't work that way or he forgot, because he does not get a free shield. Darth Vader hits the field here and is searching for units to bring out. Up to 3 resources of villainy units, and it's going to be the client who shows up with a shield of his own. The ground arena is now looking extremely strong for Wu, and Alex has only a Cartel Spacer. It does look like he just drew a Darth Vader of his own, though, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to get huge results because none of those units can actually be killed in one ambush attack, I think. Looking at Lom Pike there. Yeah, I think it is going to be a Vader ambush. Vader. Looking at his units here to see what he can do. He could bring out a few things. He could bring out Bazine. Yeah, he brings out Bazine, Natal, and Salacious Crumb. Salacious Crumb will heal his base for 1, and Bazine will let him look at his opponent's hand and discard a card, at which point Woo then gets to draw a card. So it looks like we see a Fell the Dragon, Supreme Leader Snoke, I believe, an Overwhelming Barrage, and a Vigilance. A strong hand from Woo. Alex mulling over his decision over which of those cards to remove with Bazine Natal, and it ends up being the Overwhelming Barrage. I think I might have chosen Snoke there. I'm not sure, but I also think this game is like is far out of Alex's control at this point. That we'll have to see. If Woo wants to, he can easily heal substantial damage here with the client. There's the Snoke that Alex didn't remove. All of Alex's units get -2/-2. His Cartel Spacer is now 0/1. Yeah, there we go. So the client puts a bounty on Vader, allowing Woo to heal 5 if Vader's defeated. Lom Pike attacks Vader, putting a shield on himself and then on the Cartel Spacer, so he defeats Vader without taking damage. Then Woo's Vader swings into base. And we're seeing substantial damage here. It looks like, what is that, 13 damage? Or is it 13 HP remaining? I'm not sure which way they're doing it. It's a little easier to tell what's going on there when players do have the it's a little easier to tell what's going on there when players do have the counters out. I think it's 13 remaining, but I could be wrong. Okay. Okay. So I think there is someone came. I don't know if this person's a judge or what, but someone came and was asking about what was going on with the life totals. I think one was counting up and one was counting down. So there was a discrepancy there, but I believe it is 13 damage taken, therefore 17 damage remaining, I believe is the correct situation there. They're going over this stuff, and I will also say that Woo has a Patreon, which is currently free, and he actually, I believe, put his Qi'ra Green deck on that Patreon before playing in this event, and I will have a link to his post there, so you can check that out if you want to see his deck list. I'm not sure on Alex Hancox's deck list. Okay. So with that life total discrepancy cleared up, we're going to move on. I think it was 13 damage inflicted, 17 damage remaining, or 17 HP remaining for Alex's base. McClunky played, so that's going to bounce an Underworld unit and to deal 3 damage here. Alex bounces Salacious Crumb 3 damage on Supreme Leader Snoke. That's not going to be enough to clear him out, though. Woo uses Qi'ra's ability to deal 2 damage to Snoke and give him a shield. Nice. So with Snoke shielded, it's going to be a lot harder for Alex to deal with that. And in fact, in response to that, Alex is going to scoop. No way to deal with Snoke with the shield on it. The ground board is insurmountable, it looks like, and Alex is going to concede there. Well played to Woo. He dealt with Boba Fett very cleanly, and then went on to gain control of the board with Qi'ra and get a fairly quick win there. Sorry for the cough there, guys. So as the player's sideboard, let's talk a little bit more about the history of these builds. So Boba Green was at one time considered the best deck in the game. When the game first came out, Boba Green was one of the most popular and successful decks. But as the Spark of Rebellion meta evolved, Boba Green really kind of fell by the wayside. I'm not saying that it was a bad deck necessarily, but it became apparent that there were definitely some counters. It didn't always stop the, as Sabine decks got more refined, Boba Green was not always able to stop them. And additionally, the more control-oriented decks started being able to handle it much more easily. And so Boba Green, I wouldn't say it was a bad deck, but it was no longer the terrifying deck to beat that people thought of it as at the start of the Spark of Rebellion meta. Here in Shadows of the Galaxy, Alex is, has kind of a modernized Boba Green using cards like Salacious Crumb. Looks like he's got Maul in there. He's got the Jetpack, the Hotshot DL-44, Bazine, Boba Fett's armor. So we're seeing if he can bring an update to this build with cards from Shadows of the Galaxy that will make Boba Green a terrifying prospect again. Whereas wooooo is fielding Qi'ra Green, which, as I discussed earlier, is kind of the modern update of the blue-green villainy soft control archetype that saw some success, especially with Krennic Green during the Spark of Rebellion meta. There were also people playing Iden Green, but I think as things went on, it became kind of apparent that Iden Red was better than Iden Green. And so if you wanted to go blue-red, Iden or Vader were good choices, but if you wanted to go blue-green, it seemed like Krennic was probably a better option. And in the chat there, somebody's saying that Alex Hancox is actually the two-time Final Fantasy TCG World Champion. So an experienced card game player in his own right, if that's true. I don't follow the Final Fantasy TCG scene, so I'm not sure if that's correct, but winning the World Championships of a popular game is an impressive accomplishment. And speaking of which, little fun fact, one of the senior designers on Star Wars Unlimited TCG, Jeremy Zwern, was himself the world champion of mini games back when Fantasy Flight was doing their living card games. I think he was the first world champion of Netrunner. I think he was the first world champion of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest LCG. I think he had a bunch of wins in Call of Cthulhu. He had a lot of event results before joining Fantasy Flight Games and working on developing the games instead of just winning them. So now, yeah, we see looks like a Bazine Natal. I don't know what card that was because of glare, but I think it was the only 2-cost card. Yeah, so I think it was an Inferno 4. So Alex led with Bazine Natal and removed Inferno 4, which was the only 2-cost card that wooooo had access to. And wooooo did not draw another 2-cost, or if it was another 2-cost, chose not to play it, which means that Alex kind of blanked wooooo's first turn. That's a nice little trick that you can get with Bazine when going first, at least. wooooo is going to throw down the good old Super Laser Technician, an old standby in this game. 3-cost 2/1, and when defeated, you can put it into play as a ready resource. Not only do you get a ramp card, you also get some stats. Alex is going to play Boba Disintegrator. wooooo takes the initiative, and Bazine swings in there for 1 damage to base. Now, I will say, one of the things that Qi'ra most wants to do is, if Qi'ra can deploy and then swing in against a unit with 3 attacks, she will live on 1 HP, and because of Grit, she'll have 7 damage on her, 4 from her own ability and 3 from hitting the 3 power unit, which will then allow her to hit for 7 in subsequent turns. The Super Laser Tech swings into Boba, is defeated, and comes into play as a ready resource. 2 damage there for Boba. Boba swings for the base, I believe. 3 damage to base. An ambush. Oh, Gideon Hask ambushes Bazine and gives taking 1 damage and giving himself a +1/+1 counter. When an enemy unit is defeated, you may give a friendly unit an experience token. Gideon Hask, a villain from... but there's a waylay for Gideon, sending him right back to hand, and then Boba readies a resource for an enemy unit leaving play. Gideon is a villain from Star Wars Battlefront 2's single-player campaign, which is... It's an interesting thing. I quite enjoyed it, honestly. I think that it was a little odd because I thought that the overall plot and scenario was kind of absurd, but at the same time the characters were cool and interesting. So Gideon was a kind of memorable villain in that game. And Qi'ra deploys and hits Boba Disintegrator, defeating him. Alex doesn't have anything to do with those 2 extra resources, and that leaves Qi'ra in that position that I was describing earlier, where you have the 7 damage on use and A can swing for 7. If Boba deploys here, Qi'ra can just trade with him. So Alex is in a bit of trouble, has to come up with some solution for Qi'ra. Now, he does have a few ambush units in hand. Forlom or Bosk could ambush in, defeat Qi'ra, and leave things open for Boba, but we could see another Power of the Dark Side come out and clear Boba pretty easily there. So it's not necessarily a great situation for Alex. Let's see how things progress. It's going to be Forlom ambushing Qi'ra, as predicted there. Boba's ability used to ready a resource, so 2 resources now up. Ideally, Alex would have a 2-cost unit that he could play to cover Boba against a Power of the Dark Side, but he doesn't have it. Gideon on the field. Boba deploys. I think he's got to use his 2 resources on Boba's armor and use that to clear Gideon? Yeah. Boba's armor +2/+2 and takes 2 less damage, and Boba indeed clears Gideon, taking only 3 in return, because Boba's armor not only gives stats but also protection, but he doesn't have anything to do with the two resources he could ready with Boba, and that does mean he is vulnerable now to a Power of the Dark Side. Does Woo have it? If Woo has a Power of the Dark Side here, Alex is in big trouble, and I think I might have seen it in his hand, but I'm not sure. Ouch, there it is. Power of the Dark Side. Boba once again cleared. It seems like Alex doesn't necessarily have enough of the small units in play at these points to cover his Boba from Power of the Dark Side, as this has now happened to him in both games. A Bazine Natal smuggled out. Wow, another powerful hand for Woo here. We see a Devastator, Vader, Supreme Leader Snoke, Vigilance, and I couldn't quite see the other card. I think it might have been an Overwhelming Barrage. I'm not sure. And so then Vader is removed, and I think Woo just drew this Black Sun Starfighter or whatever that goes into play, a 3/2 Sentinel in space. And yikes, Alex doesn't have anything else to do with his resources. That is very unfortunate. Once again, I think this game is looking very favorable for Woo. We saw his hand full of big, high-impact plays, and Alex is having trouble getting a board to stick. 1 damage to base. Not really what you most want to be doing, but 3 damage to base from the Black Sun Starfighter. Vader hits the field for 7 and is going to be able to get 3 resources of villainy units on the board as well. Let's see if that can allow Alex to build up a more substantial board. He could get, he brings out a Boba Fett Disintegrator. So he now does have a substantial board on the ground, but the problem is we've seen Woo's hand, and Woo has some excellent stuff. There's Supreme Leader Snoke, -2/-2 to the whole field there for Alex. And Alex takes initiative. Vader only hitting for 3 right now. If there's a surprise strike, he could use that to take out Snoke. But absent a surprise strike, that Snoke might stick around and be a huge obstacle yet again. All right, Alex is in trouble here with Snoke once again showing up to really impose a harsh penalty on Alex's board. So Supreme Leader Snoke, a new card from Shadows of the Galaxy, is a 6/6 and gives all non-leader units your opponent controls -2/-2. Snoke is ambushed by Maul, and so Maul ambushes for 7, but the -2/-2 means he only hits for 5. However, he uses his on-attack ability to put the damage on Bazine instead of himself. Snoke barrages for 8, and that is enough to clear Vader and Boba because those units are -2/-2. So Snoke is really a powerhouse here and causing huge problems for Alex Hancox in this game. And so he does opt to trade here, hitting the base for 3 and then trading Snoke for Maul. So now the only unit on the board is that Black Sun Starfighter in space. It is, unfortunately, there's a lot of glare on that sleeve, but it is a 3/2 Sentinel in space. A Cartel Spacer hits the field, not a very powerful unit, but it could potentially trade with the Black Sun Starfighter. Sorry if you just heard the doorbell. Devastator hits the field and hits the Black Sun, hits the Cartel Spacer for 10. Kind of crazy there. Let's see what happens here. Maul, another copy of Maul hits the field, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Wu takes the initiative. He can swing for 13 damage here just with his Space Arena, and he's probably going to have some kind of answer to. He's probably going to have some kind of answer for Maul. We going to see an Avenger here? What are we going to see here? Yep, there's Avenger. Maul's off the field. This is probably an insurmountable board now, and Alex realizes it too. There's the fist bump. For the concession. Once again, Wu manages to keep the board small, handle Boba easily with power of the dark side, and then use his much stronger endgame to get the win. So congrats to Wu for winning this match 2-0 against Alex Hancox. Qi'ra ECL getting a strong win there. So congrats to Wu, and once again, shout out to Code Dameron for providing this footage. We'll have links to Code Dameron's channel, to Wu's channel, to Wu's deck list post, and to the original footage with player audio if you're interested in watching. All of that can be found in the video description below. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more. I will catch you guys later.